and welcome back
to Read the Room,
a culture club,
a podcast by
Alexys,
Kaylin,
and Larsen.
Today, our episode is a deep dive on whether the book is ever truly better than the movie. I think I'll start us off with this Stephen King quote that I found from the Indiana University of Bloomington Library. They had written an article on the age-old debate of books versus movies, and in it they cite Stephen King as having said, "Books and movies are like apples and oranges. They are both fruit, but taste completely different."
I like that. I feel like I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting coming from him, too. Especially, like, he's gotten so much more involved in shows based off of his world, not necessarily books that he's written. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it really is an age-old debate, which I think is why we kind of wanted to center an episode on a conversation about book adaptations that come out in movie format, and why it is that so often we feel disappointed. That's the biggest dialogue that usually happens when a book gets turned into a movie, is that so many people who read the book and then watch the movie are like, oof, that didn't live up to my expectations.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that goes back to when you're writing a book, you can put so much more detail into it, and it's different than just absorbing the detail through your eyes. Like, having to read the written description detail is, I feel like, more impactful in some ways.
Or like you can have inner dialogue. You can have different characters, POVs, and those types of things are much harder to accurately depict in a movie.
Reading the Akatar books where they have their mind talk thing, and that would be, I feel like, hard to do in the way that she talks about it, in a show. There's certain, and we're getting off topic here, but I think movie adaptations or show adaptations, as we'll talk about, I think it's usually, you feel like it's not as rich.
And I think that, it's hard when the book is read first. I definitely think that when you read the book first, then see the movie, that gives people a more critical eye, because naturally what a good book is going to do to draw the reader in is it's going to allow the reader to be a part of the story and the world through the visualization that the reader will have to do in their mind. That's why so many people are like, Robert Pattinson's not my Edward, right?
Yeah.
He's not who I envisioned in my head.
Yeah. Or if I read Project Hail Mary now, all I would see is, I was going to say Ben Affleck, Ryan Gosling.
So there's that in your mind's eye versus the visuals that are given to you that create a contrast in the experiences. And that's why I really wanted to start with the Stephen King quote, because I like the idea that it is comparing apples and oranges. Yeah. And yet, there's a comparison there to be made, to put a little, data behind it. The Washington Post actually came up with a visual, a dot graph, if you will, that compares the IMDb and Goodreads scores of over 800 books that were adapted for film. And 52% of that 800, the scores showed that the book was much better than the film. Actually, only 1% had the movie being much better than the book. So when we set off to look at what movies do we think were better than the books, we're looking at a really small pool here, potentially.
Yeah, it was honestly really hard for me to brainstorm this, and kind of what we had talked about in the pre-planning is I've watched so many more of these adaptations than I've actually read the book for. And there's also so many things out there that are adaptations I didn't know were adaptations.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I set out to think about examples, I could literally only think of one to make a supreme case for why the movie was better than the book. So it's definitely a small phenomenon, but I do think that means when the movie is better than the book, it's worth an examination. And I do think that a part of this conversation that we had talked about and is worth bringing up before we get into specific examples is the idea of recycling stories. You hear a lot in the discourse around movie adaptations these days. Why are there no new ideas? Why do we always have to just reuse something? Why are we always making a remake of something, right? So what do you guys make of the fact that so much of the new quote unquote media we consume these days is a retelling of something?
I have mixed opinions on it because there's some where like, yeah, I agree that could use a refresh. You know, like this is just randomly popped in my head, but One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's a old book and it's an old movie, and if somebody were to read that or watch that today, would a modern audience, especially a younger modern audience, like it as much? Do I think we need to do another one? I don't know, but just popped in my head of like, if we did have a 2026 version, what would that look like? And there's enough time in between that maybe we could get a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like a different story be told through the same story.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so true. And like revisiting, I feel like certain stories generationally make sense because you're kind of telling the story to one generation and then waiting, giving it time to breathe, and then reintroducing it to the next generation. I mean, that's how stories stay alive. And you can say, oh, well, just go back and watch the older movie. But honestly, humans have a big history of doing oral storytelling where you have to tell the same story over and over and over again for new generations to encounter it and make their own meaning of it.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that books and plays and poetry have been doing that within books and plays and poetry as long as we've been doing books and plays and poetry. It's just we're introducing a new medium, and I feel like it feels like we're just copying all these stories into this new medium, but we've been doing that as long as we've been telling stories. We've been retelling the same stories.
Yeah.
And then back in our space episode, we brought up how like a lot of times these stories are talking to each other.
Yes.
Right.
And so a newer adaptation, you know, might be taking from a source material, but they're speaking to each other in a way.
Totally.
Yeah, or like Hamnet. I feel like that's another good example. A recent movie adaptation.
Yeah.
Where it's the book that it's based off of is in communication with Hamlet. It's very obvious that that's what's happening there.
Yeah, there's like an intertextuality that is important, and people often pit the concept of intertextuality against originality when they can coexist. And even as we were talking, I was like, you know what? I bet if you told an AI chatbot to write you a completely original story, it would inevitably create something that one would be inferior to an actual human writer, and two would be full of tropes from.
Alexys, I think this is how we beat AI. I think we should just ask it that question. I think that'll make it combust.
It'll break itself.
Break its brain.
Unfortunately, I don't know if that's true because like they're literally making AI books, so it's already happening.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, they're not saying don't take from anything, right?
Yeah, I guess what you're saying. You're saying, say, okay, these are the parameters.
Yes.
Now
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The impossible question is to write something.
It would just lie, though.
Yeah,
like, I mean, it's going to be like, you're not checking my work, so, like, it's just going to
Oh,
lie.
that's
for
so
sure,
true.
for sure.
It would lie. So we can't break the AI, but we can prove that it's evil.
Yes. There we go. There's our proof. There's the proof.
I guess we should go back to the human writers. So to get into some specific examples of these script-to-screen adaptations, on the Washington Post infographic, they have a couple movies highlighted. One of the ones that they put as movie is better than the book by the IMDb and Goodreads scores is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, which I can agree with. I mean, I liked Pride and Prejudice the book, but I loved that movie.
And people die for that movie.
Yeah, well, there's a huge debate on whether, like, most people are either a BBC miniseries lover or a 2005 lover. And it's interesting that one's on there because as far as, like, accurate adaptations go, it isn't the most accurate. The BBC miniseries is more accurate to the text. I personally do love the movie more.
Yeah.
Because I think it encapsulates a certain vibe. But this is the problem I was running into when I was trying to think of movies that I thought were better than the books, is I was finding some that, like, I enjoy both. But depending on the person you are, you might enjoy the movie more. Like, Jane Austen's books are not for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can enjoy these more modern adaptations. Speaking of, two that I think are so dependent on which adaptation you watch. This goes for any Jane Austen, but like we said, Pride and Prejudice already, but also Emma, like, and Sense and Sensibility, you know, depending on which adaptation you watch, because there are so many adaptations, both TV and movie. Depending on which one you consume, the book is hands down better, or the movie is really great. Like, I know a lot of people love the Emma Thompson Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, classic.
And she really tried to make it like the book.
Yeah.
But then others, like, I really, really love the newer Emma.
Yes.
And it gives
Elle Fanning, right?
No,
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
The Great? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Sorry.
It's okay. That version of Emma, you could say, is not perfectly accurate to the book, but it brings such a fun energy. All the acting is amazing. It's so funny and witty, and the colors are amazing, and the score is amazing. That's a movie that I watch over and over and over again, and I don't want to read Emma and Pride and Prejudice over and over and over again.
No, I mean, I like those stories, but it's enough to have them in your kind of literary lexicon. The movies are a different experience, for sure.
Yeah, one of the ones that we actually read recently, and I had seen the movie first, which I think is, maybe that's informed my opinion as well, but Killers of the Flower Moon. And that book, if I didn't listen to it, I don't think I would have been able to finish it. I think I would have, and if it wasn't for a book club, probably those two compounding things made me finish it.
Yeah.
A very interesting story. Is horrible what happens in the story. But it's so poorly written. And I remember watching the movie when it came out, I think in 22 or 23, and it's visually a beautiful movie. It's still very sad, but, like, the movie is so much better than that book. But is it just because the book's horrible? Like, I don't know if the movie is really honestly significantly better than other movies I've watched that are book adaptations. But that book...
Wasn't it nominated for stuff?
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
The movie, I mean.
No, yeah. Well, and it's a man movie. It feels Oppenheimer-esque.
It was really long.
Yeah. It's long, and it's more from, like, Leonardo DiCaprio's perspective, which the book, I mean, not...
The book is not, and he's essentially, like, a pawn character.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously he's a real person. It's a nonfiction book.
Yeah.
But, like, the book is in no way about him. It's like, by the way, he's being used by his uncle. Here you go.
And as far as I remember, because I haven't rewatched the movie, they're very true to that portion of the plot. I remember there being less about the FBI, which I wish the book was written in that way anyway. And then there wasn't, like, the rigmarole in the third part.
That's the thing, is, like, going into the story, I was expecting less FBI. But when we got to that part, I was like, this is the only portion that I think is actually well written and engaging.
Yeah.
But this isn't the part of the story that I wanted.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I haven't seen the movie, but based off the book, I sure hope the movie's better.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
The one example that I really wanted to bring up, and in order to get into it, I'm going to have to do a little bit of prefacing, so bear with me, dearest listener, but it's really important, is I wanted to talk about Stardust, which is originally a book published in 1999 by Neil Gaiman. I actually first watched the film, so it is one of those where I didn't first read the book, admittedly, so I didn't have the lens of the book. I actually didn't know it was a book for many, many, many years. But I watched Stardust, the 2007 film, as a child,
I remember going to the theaters to watch it.
yeah. It has a lot of nostalgia for me, and I've rewatched the movie as an adult and still really enjoyed it. But when I discovered that it was a book, by Neil Gaiman, I wanted to read the book, but I also want to talk about Neil Gaiman as an author. For those who don't know, Neil Gaiman has been accused of abuse and sexual assault. Some very serious allegations have been levied against him. And I'll admit that other than Stardust, I've read none of his books. I'm not like a Neil Gaiman fan. I don't fall into that category. I honestly don't have a huge understanding or acumen of his career, but I know that many of his books are well regarded. And for many years, I watched Stardust and felt a connection to the film with no knowledge that it was a Gaiman work. But now that I'm going to get into Stardust in comparison to the book, I really want to say that my stance is that it's not entirely possible to separate the art from the artist. When I was kind of looking into how to responsibly discourse about the work of an author who has done wrong things, done horrible things to people, I came across a quote from a woman who had read many of his works, and she said that while reading Neil Gaiman, I have often ignored sexual references in his books. I was never interested in them. I was more keen to understand how he wove magic, far more interested in the world and the characters that inhabited it. But those references exist, and even while reading them, I felt icky, but I ignored them all. This is my own failing as a reader. To shoehorn only the aspects I love, I discard what doesn't interest me to a footnote. And when I was reading Stardust, there were these kind of weird interjections of sexual moments and language, and knowing what we all know now, it should feel uncomfortable, and it should tell you that these works are not isolated from the man who wrote them. So I don't think that this is an instance where I'm going to say, like, let's just talk about the book in and of itself and ignore the intentions of the person who wrote it. Anytime you talk about an artist who has hurt people with their actions, you are risking giving that person a platform. So I want to be really clear on my intentions in talking about a Neil Gaiman work, is that while I don't think, and I don't personally believe, you can separate the art from the artist, that doesn't extinguish the possibility of talking about the art productively. I'm not bringing up Stardust to laud or celebrate Gaiman, nor would I want anyone to go out and buy his books. Don't do that. And I don't want to give him a platform. My intention actually is specifically that I want to highlight how the film is better in the ways that it separates itself from Gaiman. And I just think that talking about the movie without acknowledging his wrongdoings would be wrong, but also to ignore the existence of the work wouldn't make things right. So in these moments, I always try myself to look at the intention of the conversation and look at it with a critical lens and with nuance. And I hope that we can all kind of do that when we get into these read the room discourses. I don't know. Does that resonate with you guys? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. We live in a world where we are constantly finding out that people suck.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate that there is a lot of art tied to these awful human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the art is there anyways, and
Yeah.
someone is going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that doesn't mean I think that I want to be giving Neil Gaiman a platform.
No, but also we're using our platform to say he's a shitty guy, so don't support him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's okay to give him a goog to see what not to support.
For sure. And the good news is that the thing that I really do want to platform and that I really do want to talk about is Stardust, the 2007 film. And the screenplay of that film was not written by Gaiman. Yay. Was there an inspiration there? Mm-hmm. Sure, of course. I mean, again, text talk, books and movies talk. There's adaptations made all the time. But good news is that Jane Goldman and director Matthew Vaughn are who wrote the screenplay, and they did make significant changes to the story. Changes which I think in this rare case were for the better.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, the premise of both the book and the movie is fairly similar. There's a town in England called Wall that has a wall which separates the town from a mythical kind of fey land. And there's only one passage point in the wall, which has guards from the village watching it day and night, except on May Day every 9 years when there's a big market held between the fairy world and the human world. A boy, Tristan, grows up in Wall, and then one day he decides that he wants to pass through the passage, not in May, not on the special market day, but in autumn. And the reason why is because the prettiest girl in town won't marry him until he retrieves a falling star, which he jestingly asks him to fetch for her. And then adventure and misadventure ensues when the stars in the Fae world aren't quite like our own. The star in the mythical kingdom of Stormhold is like a creature, like a person-like creature named Yvain, who's played by the wonderful Claire Danes, the beautiful, wonderful. And she's in trouble, and she ends up needing Tristan's help. So it's kind of the spoiler-free synopsis. I think part of what makes the film successful is that it's a standalone film. There's no sequels, which is rare. And the highlights of the film, as opposed to the book, is that it is a true fantasy story. It's not high fantasy like Lord of the Rings, which I think is a good point of comparison, nor is it a children's fairy tale. It's full of fantasy elements. It's got some fairly adult moments, but it's not overly serious in tone. This is in contrast to the book, which has a kind of dark, almost Grimm's brother-y tone at times. It's got pretty strong CGI for being made in 2007. It smooths over a lot of the plot points, as movies often do, but particularly what the movie chooses to do is it spends less time in the human world, in the village of Wall, and it spends more time in the fairy world, in the actual fantasy. And the movie does a better job, therefore, I think, of actually developing the relationship between the two lead characters, Yvain and Tristan. Also, the ending of the movie was changed significantly from the book, and it's in line with that kind of tonal change, where the book has what some people might say is like a more realistic ending, but it's kind of somber, it's happy-ish. The movie has a happy ending. It's something very satisfying. So ultimately, I think what I really love, to put it simply, is just that the movie does a good job of removing some of the darker tones, which I feel like, after some researching, actually probably removed a lot of the Neil Gaiman from it. If you want to still enjoy this story today, I think it's important to know that some of the yickier or creepier passages in the book, like there are passages in the book about old men veering at young girls. Within the first 10 pages of the book, there's like some fairly graphic sex happening. And as someone who watched the movie first and watched it as a child, when I was like, whoa, what is happening?
This is not the movie I saw.
There's no sex in this. So I think that preserves in the movie a lot of the innocence that you'd expect of a fairy tale. And it is an original fairy tale with this whole falling star kind of come to life concept, but it builds on the fairy tale tropes that we know and love. It keeps a tone that I think is unique when it comes to like fairy tale media. It's not too childish. It's not too serious and kind of like esoteric. And it totally removes and strains out the kind of Grimm's brother Gaiman sexual undertones. And it becomes something that I think is, at least in my recollection to me, pretty wholesome. And the last point that I wanted to talk on, which I think honestly is a more general point about fantasy book to movie adaptations in general, is just the importance, when you look at a fantasy book being adapted to a movie, of the visuals. Because when it comes to fantasy fiction, I think it's probably extra important actually to have those visual elements. Good fantasy fiction, when you read it, will allow you to imagine things that aren't real, because the prose is so strong.
Yeah.
And if the visual doesn't match up to the prose, then you lose that imaginative aspect. So, for instance, when I was thinking of Lord of the Rings, I think that that's an example of fantasy movies that are equally good as the books. And I think that the reason why the movies can stand up to like Tolkien's work is because Tolkien has beautiful prose and the movies have such incredible visuals.
Yeah.
In Stardust, I actually think that the prose is a little dry, like in the actual book. And so then what you lack in prose, you gain in visuals when you watch the movie,
Yeah.
therefore making it a better movie adaptation.
Yeah. That's really interesting analysis. I unfortunately purchased Stardust and Coraline before I knew Neil Gaiman was a badman. And I tried a couple times to watch Stardust, and I was just like, I just may not be in the mood for this this book. But now I know it's not me. It's him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I have not read any Neil Gaiman and will not, but
Yeah.
it does make me want to rewatch Stardust.
Oh, absolutely. I think I only watched this movie one time, I think. It was not one that we, like, owned.
No, and you know what's so funny is that it's a movie that, like, when it was released, did not do well at the box office.
I
Yeah.
specifically remember saying I wanted to go to the movie, and my older sister was like, it has really bad reviews. And then going and leaving and being like, I told you.
That's precious.
Yeah, but yet, despite the kind of like box office bomb, like it on like Rotten Tomatoes, it has generally favorable audience and critic ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Lord of the Rings for a second
Yeah.
because I feel like that's one where the movies are so beloved, similar to the books, but a lot more people have watched the movies
Yes.
than read the books. And as someone who has done both and who like has such a spot in my heart for Lord of the Rings, I think it falls into the category where I was discovering myself while doing the research for this episode, where it's they're good in their own right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say if one is better than the other. And I think it kind of comes down to what you as the viewer or reader is interested in. Because I really enjoyed Lord of the Rings novels.
Yeah.
And I think Tolkien has like the most incredible world building to the point where you're almost like, okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's
he's
enough.
on like freak levels with it.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like inventing whole languages.
Yeah.
There's so
Yes.
many songs. And I think a lot of readers would get slowed down by some of his writing just because it's a lot of information.
It's true. Yeah. It's
And-
less digestible.
The pace is a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And I think the movies are such a wonderful adaptation while not including every detail of the book,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but just fully.
They feel the
They
vibe.
get the vibe, yeah.
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 No, I think that the Lord of the Rings movies are such a good quintessential example of high fantasy. If you want a beautiful, actually accessible high fantasy adaptation, you should watch Lord of the Rings. And if you want like a fantasy fairy tale trope adaptation, you should watch Stardust.
Yeah.
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 I have quite a few movies that I put into the like, depends on who you are. You might like the
Yeah.
movie better. You might
Apples
like the
and
book.
oranges.
Yeah, exactly. But one that I personally did put in the I think the movie is better than the book, or books in this case, is The Princess Diaries. And I know a lot of people are going to be upset by that because both movies do alter what happens in the books.
Yeah.
But my problem is that I read the Princess Diaries books. I think I read the first like 4 when I was an adult.
Yeah.
And they're written
Yeah.
for middle grade young adult. And that really, really changes what you get out of the book. To me, it was like, okay, this is annoying teenage drama. I think when I read it, I was like 25. I don't think I can relate to this. I don't want to read this. But the movie is one that I will rewatch over and over and over again.
I think and just honestly just similarly in the name. I was like trying to find something else there, but The Princess Bride. I have not read the book. I do not know much about the book. I tried to get it on Libby before we had this episode, and it was not happening. But I didn't know it was a book until relatively recently, and that is such a popular movie that people ride or die for. Like, I think that there's something to be said about the movies that you have no idea are adaptations.
Yeah.
Movies and shows, honestly.
One thing that I just was thinking of, and it's a TV show adaptation, not a movie, but My Lady Jane is a phenomenal TV show.
I heard about that one. I heard it was really
amazing.
good.
And they canceled it.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Prime. The book is good. The book is funny. The book is good. The TV show is phenomenal.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that TV show. I love that TV show. I think I'm pretty sure I watched it because you had mentioned it. But that one's just fun.
It's so good. Bring My Lady Jane back, please. Some other ones on my list of like, apples and oranges, let's say.
Yeah.
The more recent one is Project Hail Mary.
Yeah.
I thought the book was pretty fantastic for a little bro-y comedy sci-fi. But the movie is fantastic. Like, they did such a good job. And I think for the general viewer, people are going to enjoy the movie more than the book. Because the book, while it is very comedic and, like, easy to consume, there's a lot of science in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to read that,
Yeah. Just to, be a hater for a minute here. I have not watched the adaptation of this horrible, horrible book. But we read The Hunting Wives a couple years ago now. And
I've watched it.
he talked so much shit about that book.
We read this book in 2021.
Yes. Portions of it on a bachelorette trip. And man, that book sucked ass. That book was so bad. They're fucking each other's teenage children. They are...
The plot is all over the place.
It's supposed to be murder mystery. It barely is.
The writing is not good. It's so, so, so bad. So it's another one like...
I hope the adaptation is better.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
I mean, I can't really comment because I haven't read the book, and honestly, thank God for that.
No, thank God, yeah.
But I did watch Stars made the show adaptation, and then Netflix put it on their streaming services, which makes sense because the plot kind of feels like something Stars would pick up.
Yeah.
But I can't say the adaptation was good. I can say it sounds like they took out some of the plot points from the book, which in this case, since the book sounds like it was such hot garbage, might have actually been for the best.
Oh, yeah. I think if any TV writer that has any sort of talent would not do that shot for shot.
Yeah. Another book movie that I love both adaptations. And again, depends on the type of reader viewer you are. Perks of Being a Wallflower. I reread the book. Now I can't remember if I did it at the end of last year, the beginning of this year. And it's still good. Like, it's still so, so good. But the movie is another one that just, like, it gets me in my feels. Like, the acting in it is incredible. Like, the adaptation is just so, so good. And for something that is, like, from one kid's perspective and letters, they do an amazing job of getting that emotion on the screen.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's actually one where I have read the book and watched the movie, and I completely agree with you that it's an apple-orange situation. The book is obviously, it's really good, but it's limited in that it's from, like, Charlie's perspective.
Yeah.
So you only get to understand the other characters so much in as he understands them. But I do think the movie, on the other hand, was really well cast.
Yeah.
And so then you just get a little bit more of those other characters, fleshing out, kind of like you said, the emotional landscape of the film. Good for different reasons.
Well, and I actually think, too, when we were talking about, like, do we need remakes or whatever, and saying, like, it's retelling to a new audience or a younger generation. Okay, So the book Perks of Being a Wallflower came out in 1999. And then the movie came out in 2012.
Yeah.
So that's not a huge time jump, but it is allowing that media to be accessed by different generations. And I think something like Perks of Being a Wallflower should be like
redone generation by generation.
Well,
like
actually,
there's value add.
Well, I don't know if I would. I mean, I'm glad it was made into a movie, and I'm glad they waited to make. I guess like I don't think. I think the casting was perfect. How they did it was perfect, and had it been made earlier, I don't know if we would have got the same thing. But you have the book, and that's in a certain decade, a certain generation, and then the movie is a completely different generation. And I think that helps showcase the story to other viewers, other readers.
Yeah, it's getting more different people are going to consume those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting more face time.
But I will also say, I don't want them to do another one. I don't want them to remake it. I think how they remade it, how they made it is perfect. Like, I would be upset probably if they tried again, because I don't think you need to try again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might think different 20 more years.
Maybe.
This like conversation of like good in different ways, need to revisit. It's stirred up another like example in my mind that I hadn't thought of before. But have you seen the Arrival film from 2016 that starred Amy Adams?
Yeah, where she's like a linguist.
Yes, she's a linguist. They call her in because she's got to talk to some aliens, and she makes a massive discovery that the aliens' their language is spoken always in reference to time. And because time is a part of their language, when she learns to speak it, it actually changes her way of thinking so that she can kind of see all time at once.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's actually small.
I have not seen it.
Maybe I haven't watched the whole thing. I was like, I distinctly remember watching a clip, like maybe in a college class or something, but I'm like, man, maybe I didn't watch this.
Small tangent, but I read it in college for a college English class. Well, I read the short story, I should say, called Story of Your Life. It's a novella by Ted Chiang that was written in 1998. Kind of, honestly, same era as Perks of Being a Wallflower and Stardust, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
But when we read it, I remember that my college professor, he wanted to give some like kind of context for this sci-fi idea in the film. So this is the tangent part, but it turns out that linguistically there has been studies about how the way that you think, because you think in your native language, right?
Yeah.
If your native language has spatial phrases as a key part of expressing something, it can change the way that you think. So there's been certain tribes where when they speak always in relation to some kind of like distance. Like that's a key part of their grammar structure, is saying it's something is this far east or something happened that far west, and their ability to self-navigate, like their internal GPS, is much stronger than people who speak in languages that don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the same group of people or just a similar concept, but I know that there is a group of people that speak about everything in relation to the cardinal direction. So instead of your left hand or right hand, it's always your east or your west or your north or your south.
Yes.
So like your west hand versus your east hand, or your I was gonna say your north foot versus your south foot, but your foots are not going to be north or south probably.
And so you mean that changes like anytime they're looking in a different direction? They would
yes,
say that's
yes, exactly. Yeah. But like your whole entire frame of reference is completely different.
Yeah. So similar concept, anyways, is I guess for the framing of this story of your life by Ted Chiang, except instead of spatial like distance, it's that their alien language is based on time, and this human linguist learns to speak it. Well, Arrival is a really cool version of that film because obviously, as I'm just even now trying to like tell about the concept, it's a complex concept.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for something like a novella, which is like a shorter work. So when I was reading the novella, like I remember like it is kind of hard to grasp at times what's going on. The prose is really beautiful, and there are some of the scientific gaps are fleshed out a lot more in the written work. But when you watch Arrival, you get Amy Adams' fabulous acting, and it helps you to really understand the emotion of the piece much more, even if you have to suspend disbelief because there are kind of gaps in the film's storytelling versus the novella's storytelling. I think sometimes when you do have something really complex, you have to make choices about where you prioritize your attention in a film, and they prioritize the emotion. So I definitely think, like, yeah, both are good in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's okay.
Yeah. Two others I was thinking of that I would say are less complex.
Yeah.
That I really enjoy the film. One, I love the film. I've seen so many times.
Yeah.
But I also really like the book. Crazy Rich Asians. I love all of those books. They're silly, goofy, fun. But the movie is like, I've seen that movie probably like 10 times. Like, it's just so good. And I did watch the movie before I read the books. But the books are like, again, I think depending on who you are, you're gonna enjoy the movie more.
Yeah.
And the other one is a more recent adaptation, but People We Meet on Vacation. Another one where I watched the movie before I read the book. So they make a lot of changes, cut some stuff out like you always have to do.
Yeah.
But still good. And I think that, like, there are a lot of people who are gonna enjoy the movie more than the book.
I wonder if there is data, or if you can even data this, but like, are there movie adaptations that make people seek out the source material more than other movie adaptations, and vice versa? Like, I think it's really common for someone who reads a book to want to see the show or the movie. But if you are watching the movie, you have to know it's a book.
Yeah.
So I think that probably factors into that, how popular the actual source material itself is. But yeah, like, are you more likely to do that with a rom-com versus high fantasy? I'm thinking like Witcher.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly didn't know Witcher was a book. I knew Witcher was a video game. I know many people who've told me about the Witcher video game. I didn't know it was a book till recently.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, actually putting some data behind that,
Yeah.
book to movie adaptations do impact book sales. According to Huffington Post's report on the 2012 Nielsen book scan, the top selling books for 2011 were One Day, The Help, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. All books that
totally makes sense.
Yeah, all books that had theatrical releases that year.
Yeah.
And Forbes reported that film adaptations of books gross 44% more at the UK box office, and a full 53% more worldwide than films from original screenplays.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because you kind of already have an audience.
Yeah.
A, like, really good recent example of how book to screen adaptations can actually drive book sales and get more people reading is actually Heated Rivalry.
Yeah.
I got to admit, when Heated Rivalry, which is a hockey romance novel by Rachel Reed, when that show first came out and people started talking about it and getting buzzy about it, I didn't even realize that it was a book.
No, I don't think I did either. And honestly, I'll see like a TikTok about Heated Rivalry and be like, oh, they're not on the same team. Oh, they're from different countries. Oh, like, I know nothing about the source material, period.
What did you think the rivalry meant if they were on the same team?
They could be rivals for the same position.
Okay.
I've fought all against a lot of other third basemen in my day, okay?
Okay.
I don't know. Or they could, I don't know how old they are either in this. I know now that they're like young. Is young adult the right term?
It starts out when they're like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And then it progresses into
Early adulthood.
Yeah, they're mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what I knew that it was a book when it first came out only because I'm very deep on like BookTube and Book Talk, but it is a book that I had never heard about before the whole Heated Rivalry discussion came out. And I don't know if that's because it's a Canadian book.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, it is
TV
hockey.
show,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that is just like or that I hadn't read any romances prior to last year, so like I wasn't deep in looking at like, oh, what are my options?
Yeah, in that culture. I think the only book that I've read that's similar to Heated Rivalry is that swimming one.
Deep End?
Deep End. I want to say Knee Deep. I know that wasn't right.
It's similar in that it's a sports romance,
Yep.
but other than that, not
It's completely
similar.
different. It's not. Well, there might be some gay characters, but
Yeah,
it's not the focus.
It's different.
It's just like really different. Sorry, Alexis.
No, you're
Continue
so
with Heated Rivalry.
Yeah, no, but talking about the Heated Rivalry boom and how that's kind of like a case study here of the way that the screen adaptations can drive book sales. CBC Books actually did an interview with Deandra Lalonde, who is Kobo. Kobo is a big online book retailer, ebook retailer. So she's Kobo's content sales lead for North America. And she talked about Heated Rivalry specifically and how the book to show adaptation was on her team's radar for a while, but they were so surprised by the obsession that it actually spawned. Like, they were aware it was coming out. They were like, oh, book adaptation show is coming out. Like, maybe there'll be more sales of Heated Rivalry. But sales for the ebook for Heated Rivalry went up by 265% in the first 2 days the show was out.
That's crazy.
That's insane,
Yes.
especially since like we're not. Our country is
We're
not.
known for being accepting of.
Oh, I just meant reading. like if you read more than one book, you're in like the top like at least 50 percentile of readers in America. Sorry, one book a year. Like, so it seems crazy that this show can make so many people. And are those people likely already readers? Yes, but it is crazy. And on that same like note there, I believe during the recent snowstorm in New York City, Zoran Mandami had mentioned Heated Rivalry in like one of his press conferences for that, and the New York library system saw a increase of checkouts.
Yeah, but that actually says something it says something so important that one, a lot of people don't read, and two, that a lot of people in North America are still very unaccepting of stories about people who are not like them, and that means a lot of stories about queer characters, a lot of stories about characters who have religious or ethnic or racial differences than the majorities. And so I think Heated Rivalry is such an interesting case study, just to like even amplify that like more. So the show premiered in Canada on November 28th. By December 7th, the sales had gone up nearly 500% just on this one ebook retailer. Wow. On the print side, Indigo reported that Reed's book series, the series as a whole, had seen a 5,805% lift in sales since the TV adaptation premiered. So adaptations, like, they have power.
Yeah, it's a book you would think would never get an adaptation, and the fact that somebody out there said, no, we do need this adaptation, not only is it going to be successful, popular, but like it's something that people need. I think that like whoever greenlit that, kudos.
You done good.
Yeah, and you know, I think one of the things that is important to discuss, right, is accessibility. There's a lot of different ways that these show or movie adaptations of books get off the ground, but no matter kind of how they start, I think that what's important is that they do create a greater opportunity to reach a bigger audience. Because sometimes it isn't so much a question of is the book better, is the movie better, is this a story worth consuming?
Yes.
And if you watch Heated Rivalry and you fall in love with the characters because of these amazing actors and this well done show, and then that means that you go and read the book and you discover, oh, there's a whole world in this book that is beyond the show. That doesn't mean that one is better or worse, right? You like them both.
Well, I think to your point of accessibility, like sometimes a movie or a TV show is just flat out easier to consume than the book. And that doesn't mean that the book is inherently better or more like intellectual. But you're right, like that helps you reach a wider audience. And maybe that leads to increased book sales. Maybe that leads to more people wanting to pick up the book later on. But maybe it doesn't. Either way, you're still reaching a wider audience.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of elitism around the book versus movie debate in terms of like oh, if you go out and you watch the movie and you haven't even read the book, like
Yeah.
that kind of discourse. But
Do you even know one song of that band that you're wearing the t-shirt for? That's what that feels like.
right, it's like you're not in some secret club, but actually, like, the way that I've looked at it for a long time is as someone who doesn't get to read as much as I would like. Like, admittedly, I read as much as I can with the time that I have with the job that I do while keeping a work-life balance. But I would read more if I could. I still want to be able to have dialogues with people about stories, and sometimes the way to do that is to go see the movie.
Yeah.
And then
watch
at least
the
you're in the
show.
conversation, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, like, while I feel like we're making a good case for like the books still,
Yeah.
there is so much to gain out of movie adaptations that are done well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even if it's just more exposure to that plot. I mean, yeah. Yeah, well, like, and kind of on the same train of thought of that, if you have media literacy, like, you can still have a really informative conversation about a movie you just watched. We do that all the time. We do that on this podcast. Like, you can have these discussions about society and culture and politics and all of these things, and it not be about the book, right? It could be about a different adaptation or not a book at all. But it's the general literacy, not like reading literacy, that is also making these discussions not fruitful. Or like, people don't even want to have these discussions. Like, people don't want to like have differing opinions, and they don't want to, unless they're anonymous and online, like, they don't want to have these more quote unquote difficult conversations because you don't have the same opinion, or you're not thinking the exact same way.
You know, thinking about this all from like an English teacher's lens, I kind of started thinking about, as we were talking, like, the fact that people just learn differently. It's like one of the first things they teach you in teacher school is that, hey, actually everybody is going to connect with material in different ways and different kinds of material. So some people just naturally learn better auditorily, and maybe that's why they need an audiobook. Some people, they love reading. Some people need visuals. Like, I have taught Great Gatsby to my kids recently, my 11th grade students, and I was having trouble getting them kind of into it at first because the language is sometimes a little bit dense for the current reading level of some of my students. But once I started showing them clips of the 2013 Baz Luhrmann adaptation, some of them started being like, this is my favorite book ever.
Yeah,
And-
you just need some of the glamour visually,
Yeah.
and then you can kind of...
Once they could picture Tobey Maguire as Nick Carraway, then they were like, oh, wait, this is interesting. I can now have a grasp on
I can
what's going
resonate a
on.
little bit with it. Like,
Yeah, sometimes you
interesting.
just need a little bit of a foundation in a learning modality that works for you. So, you know, and that goes back to the elitism conversation, right? Is that obviously I want everyone to be reading. Like, that's out of the question. But sometimes people need an access point. Book to screen adaptations are win-wins, which in fact, I have a quote from Onita Crawford, who's the VP of Scripted Development for the production company Muse Entertainment, that goes right along with that. She said, the audience who know the IP will likely watch the adaptation, but then there's the audience who only watches the adaptation, who aren't familiar with the book, who will potentially seek the book as well. It's a win-win for everyone to be able to discover and bring new audiences or fans to a story.
Yeah. But kind of just to bring it back to, is the movie ever really better than the book? All that we said, I think you still need to have good adaptations.
Yeah.
There is no room in this day and age for someone to produce a poorly adapted piece of media.
Yeah. So, and an idea that misses a little bit,
Sure.
but a really poor adaptation,
Like, when people are asking, did you read the book?
Yeah,
yes.
that's a problem. And at that point,
Panel.
And at that point, why are you not just calling it something different?
Yes. Emerald panel.
If you want to make an adaptation, you gotta know the original IP.
Yeah.
Not to, like, plug one of our own episodes, but, you know, we were compelled to read Wuthering Heights all together ahead of the 2026 movie release, wanting to get the OG Emily Bronte story in our minds before we watched the most recent adaptation. And we weren't the only ones. Like, if anything, that is one of the most recent, like, hallmarks of that can the movie actually prompt people to go and read the book phenomenons, because Wuthering Heights, according to Forbes, sold 72,000 prints across all editions in January 2026 alone.
Wow.
More than 8 times the 8,000 copies sold in 2025.
That is insane.
Yes. The January 2025 sales themselves were more than doubled compared to January 2024. So just the knowledge that the book would be made really exponentially increased the book sales.
I would want to know the information on Frankenstein too, because we have our episode about Frankenstein and the Bride, and I will say that's actually one that I think I enjoyed the adaptation more than the book. While I love the book for what it is, it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Wuthering Heights more than I enjoyed Frankenstein personally. So I kind of think that the Guillermo del Toro adaptation is better than the book, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't find the immediate statistics on the Frankenstein book sales, but I would place money that more people read it in 2025.
Well, I want to read The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
And to get that book, it was on back order.
Wow.
Whoa.
That has to be because the series is coming out soon. I have an abridged version. I think I still have the abridged version. It might be in my parents' house somewhere, but we had to read an abridged version going into sophomore year of high school, and I remember loving that book. Like, it is weird and wacky and complicated, and we had to keep like an organization chart of the characters, but man, I'm excited to delve into that again soon.
Yes. We will probably have to talk about Count of Monte Cristo at some point.
Yeah.
Likely probably this year with the adaptation coming out, but we'll see. Yeah. I also think it's really interesting. We have some book adaptations like Yesteryear. That is being released April of 2026, and there's already an adaptation in the works, which it's so fascinating how quickly some of those things can happen when, like what we're talking about, like some of these things take so long to get any exposure or traction.
Well, I think that's kind of like indicative of the era we're in right now. People are aware that people want these adaptations. And so like they're probably working with publishers to be like, okay, what do you think is going to be the next big thing? Kind of figuring that out before it even happens to get the jump on some of that. I hope that this is an eye-opener for like producers and these streaming networks to say like, no, people want these types of shows or these adaptations, because like we were saying earlier, how My Lady Jane got canceled. They didn't even give it time, and I'm pretty sure what happened was it premiered around the same time as the House of the Dragon was premiering. So people were watching that because it was already an established show. They canceled it. They canceled My Lady Jane before it even like got going. So by the time people started watching it, they'd already canceled it.
And I think that's one of the issues with streaming services and we'll talk about this more at some point. We'll do an episode on streaming services, but like people don't want to watch a show that only has one season because they don't want to get invested in the show and then not have it have another season. But then that's how you get the next season, and it sometimes it takes a little while to catch up. Like not everybody's gonna watch XYZ show the week it's released, the month it's released.
A lot of people like to wait until all the episodes are out before they watch it. Or like with My Lady Jane, while it was a book before, more people found out about the book after the TV show came out. Same with like Heated Rivalry. So you kind of need to wait and see what happens. And
but that's not what capitalism's about, Larsen.
Exactly. And so I really hope that, because there's been so many successful adaptations recently, especially for TV shows. I hope that this is eye-opening for these executives to say, hey, like, let's do more of this, but also let's give it a second to reach its audience. Because I'm sure Heated Rivalry only increased after the first episode. I'm sure like that first 2 weeks or whatever, it only increased after that.
Yeah.
And then that was the only thing the internet was talking about. But it
Right.
took
For a
a
long
little
time.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's adaptations like Apocalypse Now is an adaptation of Heart of Darkness. And I've never read Heart of Darkness, but I was forced to watch Apocalypse Now. And my understanding of that adaptation, because it's an 1899 novella and a 1979 movie. And my understanding is that Heart of Darkness is set in Africa.
Yeah, it is.
And Apocalypse Now is Vietnam. And so it's like two very similar, like, it is an adaptation of that story, but it's modernized. The story's changed. The story's different, but still true to the text in a way. And I think that there's a lot of things that can be adapted like that, but you have to put, it's not a one for one, like a Heated Rivalry. Like, there are, I think, story adaptations, book adaptations that would be great movie adaptations or show adaptations if they are changed in a way that is either more to the present day or more just a different type of the same story, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And I do think this kind of brings us back to, like, discussing, you know, how people have been complaining about there being no new content out there.
Right.
And I feel like after our discussion, I almost think that, like, book to movie, book to TV show adaptations are not the same thing as, like, a remake of a movie.
Yeah.
Or, you know, having 7 sequels to a movie.
Yes.
I don't think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Something I was thinking of while, you know, curating my list, I wanted to know if you guys have any books that you would love to see made into a movie, or ones that you think would be great as a movie.
Okay.
Or just ones that you love it so much you want to see it on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was more in love with Sarah J. Maas, definitely some of those, but I think I could kind of care less at this point. One that I would like to see, and just I enjoyed the movie or the book a lot, and I think that universe would be fun to see, is Chain Gang All-Stars. I think that there's a lot, just like the relationships of those people, but like kind of the anti-capitalism sentiments, and
the whole prison reform system.
Yeah. I think that it would be fun to watch that.
Yeah.
Fun might be not the right word, but
Okay, to answer Larsen's question about what book I would like to see as a movie, I would like to see The Secret History as a movie.
I was just thinking that.
Yes. I had to verify it, but there is currently no movie adaptation of Donna Tartt's The Secret History.
That seems wild since it came out in the early 90s.
Are people scared?
So,
I'd be scared.
Yeah, so here's the thing. People are scared. Apparently, there have been multiple attempts, including the furthest one that kind of got into production was Warner Brothers, and allegedly Gwyneth Paltrow was going to star.
Really?
Was she
yes.
gonna be
At what
Camilla?
age?
Yes, she was going to be Camilla. This would have been in 2002.
Okay, that timeline feels better. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. As I'm looking at the books that I've
Well,
read.
can I just say something about that?
Yeah.
I would love a Secret History adaptation, but I know that I would be one of those people that's so pissed off if they don't get it right.
Yes. And I do understand why it would be challenging, because there is an unreliable narrator, and there's a lot of internal monologue, but...
And just to set the scene, get the vibe.
Yes.
But they could do it so cool.
I know.
So
I
atmospheric.
know.
And also the fans, they fan so hard for that book. I feel like they have some big shoes to fill. No, I think that would be, if done well, fantastic. And stay tuned. We will be doing a Secret History episode at some point in the near future.
Yes, exploring dark academia.
Another one that I would be interested to see, but also I feel like it would be really hard for a TV producer to not ruin it, would be I Who Have Never Known Men. I think that could be a really cool adaptation. I also think that they would ruin it. I think that they would try to give you more than the book gives you.
Yeah.
And that would definitely have to be like a mini-series. But I'd like to see it.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think one that I would be really cool to see, kind of Game of Thrones-esque, is the whole Robin Hobb Realm of the Elderlings universe. But again, like, I would want someone to commit to it. Like, you know, I think Game of Thrones is, you know, we can all agree up until the final season, a really good, cool adaptation. And Robin Hobb's whole universe, even if you wanted to just do like the Farseer trilogy or something, I think that would be kind of fun to see. And it's the same kind of fantasy-esque whatever violence, but I would want it to be done fully, not half-assed.
Yeah.
Right.
I also think that there's like room for cartoon adaptations. I don't mean child adaptations. I mean, you don't have to have live actors for everything. Like, I think that some, especially fantasy, can be done so well in a cartoon version. And I feel like it can be so hard sometimes to do things with humans. Like, you have a lot of freedom with animation.
Yeah, that's true. I do wonder, though, like, not as many people enjoy...
Yeah, I think animation gets slander.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people really do love certain animation styles. But I feel like if you want to have a wide audience release, it is harder.
Yeah.
But I agree, you could do so much more.
Yeah, and then, like, be fun and it's just different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I guess when we ask, is the movie ever really better than the book? What we're urging is not necessarily one over the other, so much as it is, why do we love adaptations, and what makes for a good adaptation, and both. Yes, and.
Yeah.
You know, talking about all of this really just kind of like in a full circle way reminds me of like where this podcast really came out of, which was finding that dialogue between media, between movies, between TV shows and music with literature, with the books that we were reading, and knowing that those things don't belong in their own worlds. They belong in conversation together. So yeah, I think we just encourage you to go out there and judge for yourself all of these movie adaptations in comparison to their book counterparts, or don't. Or enjoy them as an apple and as an orange, and know that it's okay to like them both for different reasons. Consume what you can, consume what you will, talk about them in tandem when it makes sense, but just consume something good for you. Consume fruit. Consume apples and oranges and not TikTok brain candy.
Get your fiber.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening.
We hope you'll keep reading the room with us.
So keep checking back for more episodes every Monday and Thursday that dive into the spaces where literature, media, and culture meet.
Please reach out to us at readtheroom@gmail.com for feedback and topic suggestions.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at readtheroom_culture club for the most up-to-date podcast information.
If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen.
And drop a comment below about your favorite or least favorite movie adaptation. And remember to take up space in whatever room you're in.